giving you a live look at our XRAD system. As we continue with your top stories this Sunday morning, we now transition to discuss the 2024 hurricane season. And looking at the XRAD system, you can see it is already in full effect. As we continue to discuss the story, giving you some video of recent flooding and remnants of Tropical Storm Alberto. Fox Weather reporting in Mexico, 3 people were killed by electric shock, and a 15-year-old was swept away by raging floodwaters due to Tropical Storm Alberto. Alberto's impacts were felt all along the U.S. Gulf Coast from Brownsville, Texas to Grand Isle in Louisiana. Now, each year, countless homeowners discover they're not covered by flood damage, and you can see some of those homes there on your screen. Well, joining us live this morning to share some tips for this hurricane season is Ron Snoffer, the CEO of National Claims Negotiators. That's a public adjusting firm based in Texas. Ron, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you. So hurricane season, no joke, nothing to play with. And we know that the National Weather Service, the National Hurricane Center is saying 2024 is expected to be a very active hurricane season. We definitely saw that with Tropical Storm Alberto. How do the viewers need to plan for this? I know with your expertise, many times you see people reacting after the fact, and unfortunately, sometimes that's too late.
Yeah, it's best to be proactive in a situation like this. Technology is our friend. We just need to take our cell phone, walk around our property, and identify the condition that it's in before the storm occurs. You want to make sure that you have those pictures, both of the inside and the outside of your property. That way, when the insurance company does have to come out to make an assessment, you already have the pictures showing what the precondition of the property was in prior to the storm.
I want to ask you, so I'm new to the Florida area. This will pretty much be my first active hurricane season. I'm from Memphis. So when you hear about flood zones, for me, that's not something I'm used to hearing. I know many of the viewers, it might be their first time dealing with hurricane season. Break that down for us. How do you know if you are covered with your insurance for flooding? And then also, when it comes to that term flood zones, how do you know if you are in a flood zone?
So when you buy your property, they'll notify you whether you're in a floodplain or not through the survey that you generally have to have when you purchase the property. You'll get that at the title company. But most likely, if you're in a flood zone, you're going to be notified by your insurance company that you're in a flood zone, and you have the option of either buying insurance or relying on FEMA. And FEMA puts a cap on your property at $250,000 worth of damage if you do have a claim against flood.
Now, Ron, does the same apply for those that are renting? Maybe they stay in an apartment. Is it different for a homeowner and those that are renting a property?
Very different. Okay. So a renter is only going to have rental insurance. It's going to replace their contents. It doesn't take care of the property damage at the property when they have rental insurance. It's a big difference.
When it comes to misconceptions, Ron, many people think they know everything, but they don't. We got the expert here on Live Now from Fox. What are some of those biggest misconceptions when it comes to insurance and also when it comes to hurricane season that you continuously have to remind people every year?
Having the right amount of coverage. People right now are struggling, and so they're trying to make ends meet, and one of the sacrifices they make is on their insurance coverage. Well, unfortunately, when you pay less for insurance, you generally have less coverage, which means if you do get hit by a disaster, instead of having a 1% deductible, you may have a 3 or a 5% deductible. You may not have coverage for ordinance of law or code compliance, which when you go back to rebuild, you're spending tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars out of pocket in order to put you back in the same condition you were in before the storm.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I know you did mention off the top of this interview taking pictures so that you have proof of how the property looked before the storm hit. What about receipts? What if someone's displaced when it comes to, flood damage? They need to stay in a hotel. Do you need to keep those? Anything else that the viewers need to keep and have on mind as proof of what they're dealing with this hurricane season?
And most people have what's called additional living expenses, or ALE. With that, any receipts that you have for hotel, restaurant, additional dry cleaning. If you have to have your pets boarded, all those things are covered by your additional living expenses. You keep those receipts, and once again, it's easy to take a picture of that receipt. That way, it's up there in the cloud, and you're never going to lose it. And then you have access to it when the insurance company asks, because it's a dollar for dollar reimbursement when it comes to those additional living expenses.
Ron Snoffer, I know the viewers are taking notes. I was taking a few notes myself. Truly, great information you were sharing this morning. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I also want to ask you, it just came to mind, we hear the term disaster declaration. Does any of that help if a governor or a public official does declare that disaster when these storms hit?
Generally, when you get a disaster declaration, you're going to have more services available for people. Nonprofits will come in and help out in a situation like that. And then you'll have more resources to help do board up, tarping, temporary cleanup, any of the situations like that. But if it's not a named storm, you may not have those resources available to you. And then you're relying on yourself and local resources to help out.
Ron, thank you so much again for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. Anything else you'd like to add? Anything myself and the viewers need to know before we let you go?
Just be proactive. This is going to be a very busy storm season. We hear it every year, but I mean, Alberto's real early in hurricane season. We've already had a nice storm, and across the country, we've had more tornadoes this year, I believe, than we've had in our history. So another good thing to be aware of, not just the hurricanes that you're watching for.
Absolutely, Ron. Thank you so much again for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. Definitely saving us some money this hurricane season. Now that we know we can itemize and take those pictures and also keep those receipts. You enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Thank you very much for having me.